one piece of advice for food and drink manufacturers would be for them to build a culture internally where issues are raised early, and to remember that even with the strongest controls in place, things can still slip through the cracks.
Welcome to the Risk Ready Recipes podcast series, where we serve up insights at the intersection of risk management and insurance in the food and beverage industry. Whether you're a manufacturer, producer or distributor, our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools to navigate risk with confidence so you can focus on what you do best.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Today's focus is on product contamination and recall, critical risks that food and beverage manufacturers can't afford to overlook. With potentially serious consequences, including reputational harm, financial loss, and operational disruption, a product recall can be one of the most damaging events a food and beverage manufacturer can face. That's why understanding the risks and having a robust insurance strategy isn't just important, it's essential. It protects your business, safeguards your brand, and ensures you can continue supplying your customers with confidence, even in the face of unexpected challenges. I'm really pleased to be joined today by my colleagues Louise Dorrian, Head of Product Recall, and Jack Broadbent, Senior Product Recall Broker. In this episode, we'll explore the current risk landscape and how businesses can build resilience through tailored insurance solutions. It's great to have you both here, Louise and Jack.
Thanks for having us. We're really pleased to be here today.
Louise, could we perhaps start by taking a look at the current risk landscape, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're seeing a real kind of tightening of the regulatory oversight, both in the UK and globally. Authorities are now faster to act, and the expectations around the labelling, the allergen declarations, and hygiene standards are greater than ever. The supply chains have also become more global and interconnected. So ingredients and components often pass through multiple countries before actually being incorporated into the final products. This complexity increases the risk of something going wrong, whether that's contamination, mislabeling, or a breakdown in the quality control. At the same time, the consumer expectations have also evolved. So people want transparency, ethical sourcing, and fast accountability when something goes wrong. And with the social media, a single issue could go viral in hours, turning just a small incident into a major reputational crisis. We're also seeing a rise in allergen-related incidents. This is still the most common trigger of a recall. Even a very small amount of an undeclared allergen could lead to serious consequences. And then contamination still remains a constant threat too, whether it's foreign objects, bacterial exposure, or chemical contamination. The potential for unsafe products reaching consumers is always present.
And then Louise, I would also add in there, we should probably mention the digital side. So as we know, the world is evolving and becoming more digital day by day. And what that means for the food and beverage industry is where more manufacturers adopt automated systems, cyber vulnerabilities become a real issue. And from these cyber vulnerabilities, you could have a cyber attack that ultimately could lead to a contaminated product and ultimately end up in a recall. So I think overall, what this means is the margin for error is shrinking for manufacturers. So even something that may start out as a small oversight can actually trigger a full-scale recall event and ultimately a reputational fallout as well.
Okay, that's great, thanks. And when we're thinking about the implications of a recall, there are obviously potentially wide-ranging impacts, financial and reputational. Could you both give us your thoughts on these, please?
Of course. So a product recall goes far beyond simply removing items from a shelves. I think that's a common misconception. Financially, the costs can stack up very quickly. So you've got the logistics of retrieving and disposing the affected product, the loss of revenue from halted sales, and the potential for regulatory fines if the issue breaches compliance standards. Then there's also the risk of third-party claims, especially if your product has disrupted a customer's operations or caused financial loss further down the supply chain. That being said, arguably the reputational impact can actually be even more damaging. In the food and beverage sector, as we know, trust is everything. Consumers expect safety, transparency, and reliability. However, once that trust is broken, it's really, really hard to recover, and we've seen numerous examples of this throughout the years. A poorly managed recall can tarnish your brand image, strain relationships with your customers, and even jeopardize future listings or market access. It's not just about fixing the immediate problem. It's about how you respond, how you communicate, and how you protect the long-term integrity of your business. That's why having a robust recall insurance cover in place is critical.
Thanks, Jack. And to that point, Louise, could you tell us a little about the cover that's available to businesses in the food and beverage sector, please?
Yeah, sure. So product recall insurance is obviously a vital tool for food and beverage businesses, especially given the complexity and sensitivity of the sector. So at its core, the cover is designed to protect companies when they need to withdraw products from the market, or whether due to contamination, mislabeling, the allergen exposures, or any other safety concerns. One of the most important aspects of the cover that is actually often overlooked is the business interruption piece. So a recall could bring manufacturing operations to a standstill, and the resulting loss of revenue could be really significant. This coverage helps to bridge that gap, ensuring that businesses can remain operational throughout the period in which the issue is being resolved.
That's great. Thanks, Louise. And could you tell us market conditions for recall insurance, please, Jack? How are things looking at the moment?
Yeah, of course. So overall, the product recall market is in a soft cycle. So what that means is ultimately it's a buyer's market. So essentially, we are seeing high levels of competition, and what this is caused by is new entrants coming in. We've seen significantly increased available capacity, ultimately meaning that with more choice in the market, it's driving lower premiums across the board. But it's not just about cost. Insurers are also expanding their appetite. What we're seeing now is they're now willing to offer terms for industries and products that were previously considered to be either too complex or too high risk. So along with the wider appetite and the lower premiums, the soft market environment is also bringing broader coverage than we have ever seen before. This is best illustrated by some insurers now offering quality defect triggers. This is a major development as it completely transforms the way in which a product recall policy can be triggered, meaning there's no longer a requirement for an insured product to cause bodily injury or property damage. I think overall, it's a much more flexible and responsive environment, and I feel like it's giving businesses a real opportunity to strengthen their recall protection whilst taking advantage of favourable market conditions.
Thank you. And could you tell us a little about the additional benefits, Louise, that are built into the insurance cover, please, the pre-loss benefits?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's actually a really important part of the cover and one that's often overlooked. So many people don't realise that product recall insurance isn't just there for when something goes wrong. It also provides a wider risk management solution. So as standard, our policies come with an appointed crisis consultants, and these are specialists who know exactly how to manage a recall situation. They're available to support the clients both before and during an incident. And then on the proactive side, the policies also include pre-incident funding, which can be used for a range of services, such as helping policyholders put together or review their existing recall plans, running PR or media training, or even conducting mock recall exercises, which we see is really popular with our clients. It's all about making sure that they're prepared and best placed to respond if an incident does occur.
Okay, thanks, Louise. And Jack, perhaps you could tell us a little about the support available from insurers in the event of a claim or even an incident.
So if you do have a potential issue arise, maybe there's a contamination concern or a regulatory notification, then those same appointed crisis consultants that Louise previously mentioned are then ready to step in to assist. They'll help you assess the situation, determine the scale and severity of it, and then guide you through the communication side of things. So whether that's talking to customers, regulators, or even the media. The appointed consultants also support and ensure internal decision-making, helping them stay focused and avoid common missteps in managing an incident when the pressure's really on. Having that kind of expert guidance from the very beginning can make a huge difference in how effectively an insured manages an incident and ultimately how they protect their brand.
Great, thank you. And maybe, Louise, we could have a last thought from you, please. If there's just one piece of advice you would give to businesses in the food and beverage sector, what would it be?
Good question. I'd say one piece of advice for food and drink manufacturers would be for them to build a culture internally where issues are raised early, and to remember that even with the strongest controls in place, things can still slip through the cracks. Having a robust product recall insurance program in place with crisis consultants on hand is what turns a potential crisis into a manageable event.
That's great. Thanks, Louise. That brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thanks to both Louise and Jack for your insights, and to you for joining us. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please subscribe, rate and share this podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to this podcast from Willis, a WTW business. The information in this podcast is believed to be accurate at the date of publication. This information may have subsequently changed or have been superseded and should not be relied upon to be accurate or suitable after this date. This podcast offers a general overview of its subject matter. It does not necessarily address every aspect of its subject or every product available in the market. It is not intended to be and should not be used to replace specific advice relating to individual situations. We do not offer, and this should not be taken as legal, accounting or tax advice. If you intend to take action or make any decision on the basis of the content of this publication, you should first seek specific advice from an appropriate professional. Some of the information in this publication may be compiled from third-party sources we consider to be reliable. However, we do not guarantee and are not responsible for the accuracy of such. The views expressed are not necessarily those of Willis Towers Watson. For further authorization and regulatory details about our Willis Towers Watson legal entities operating in your country, please refer to our Willis Towers Watson website. It is a regulatory requirement for us to consider our local licensing requirements.